It began on a night when the truth felt colder than the January air drifting over Boston. The kind of night where even the streetlights seemed afraid to shine. People would later say they saw a man running, stumbling, almost choking on his own breath, as if he were being chased by a ghost. But ghosts don't leave footprints, ghosts don't bleed, and ghosts don't drop clues that shake an entire city. In a world where justice often arrives too late, this story forces one question onto the table. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted by his own memories? Disclaimer: content is for awareness and educational purposes only. Viewer discretion advised. Detective Marcus Hale had worked homicide for 19 years in Boston PD, long enough to know which screams belonged to fear and which ones belonged to regret. But nothing in his career, not the crime scenes, not the confessions, not the broken families he'd held by trembling shoulders, prepared him for the call that came at 2:47 a.m. on March 14, 2019. The dispatcher's voice was stiff, like she was trying hard not to break. "Detective Hale, you need to come to Tremont Street. It's urgent." She didn't say why. She didn't have to. Something in her tone sliced him open. Tremont was near where his son, 17-year-old Caleb Hale, usually walked home from his late-night basketball practices. Caleb, the boy with a smile too bright for the world he was born into. The kid who still left encouraging notes taped on the fridge for his parents. Caleb, who once told his father that heroes didn't need capes, they just need courage. Marcus sped through the city lights, his heartbeat louder than the sirens. Boston looked unfamiliar tonight, quieter, darker, as if it already knew what awaited him. The moment he stepped out of his car, officers froze. No one spoke, no one moved, and that silence was worse than any scream. Marcus followed their eyes to the white sheet on the ground, and every breath in his body left him at once. His son, his only child, his reason for fighting monsters in the first place. Caleb was gone. But there was something else, something off. The scene didn't look random. The placement of the body, the direction of blood flow, the missing items that didn't match a robbery. Marcus's instincts whispered something he didn't want to hear. This wasn't a street crime. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. And someone wanted it to look like chaos, but chaos leaves fingerprints. Intentional crimes leave patterns, and this scene looked like a message. But from who? And why? As Marcus knelt beside his son's lifeless form, a single detail caught his eye, a detail that none of the other officers had noticed. Caleb's left hand was curled tightly around something, as if he had died fighting to protect it. Marcus's breath trembled as he pried open the cold fingers and uncovered a small torn piece of paper with a symbol drawn in red ink. A symbol Marcus had not seen in over 12 years. A symbol he hoped he'd never see again. A symbol connected to one of the darkest, most violent gangs he had ever investigated, and the gang leader who had sworn revenge against him right before disappearing without a trace, Adrian Locke. And in that moment, a new fear crawled into his chest. Was this really random violence? Or had the past finally come back to collect its debt? Everything inside Marcus threatened to collapse, but another part of him, the detective, the father, the man who had put countless criminals behind bars, rose with a fire he had never felt before. He wasn't just standing over a crime scene, he was standing over a declaration of war. But as the night deepened, another officer whispered something that made Marcus's blood run cold. "Sir, this looks like an inside job." The words sliced through him. Inside job? From where? From the department? From someone he trusted? From someone Caleb trusted? As Marcus stared into the shadows, one chilling question began to coil itself around his mind. A question that whispered louder than the sirens, louder than his heartbeat, louder than the grief threatening to drown him. What if the person who did this knew Caleb, personally? And as he took a shaky step back, another thought hit him with the force of a hurricane. What if the killer wasn't hiding from him at all, but watching him right now? The truth was unraveling fast, too fast. And what Marcus didn't know was that the next clue wouldn't bring him comfort. It would bring him face to face with a betrayal so deep, it would force him to question everything he ever knew about justice, loyalty, and the thin line between protector and executioner. Because the closer he got to the truth, the closer the truth got to destroying him. But what was Caleb trying to tell him from beyond the grave with that symbol? Who was the real target, Caleb or Marcus? And what would Marcus do when the next clue finally exposed the unimaginable? If this story has gripped your heart so far, kindly comment, "Justice must speak." Share this story with everyone who needs to watch it, and subscribe to Crime Chronicles TVc, your daily dose of real crime stories. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss part 2, because the next twist will question everything you think you know about revenge, love, and the criminal mind. And what Marcus discovers next will shake him deeper than the night he lost his son. The morning fog clung to Boston like a ghost refusing to leave, curling around the streets as if shielding the city from witnessing what was coming next. Detective Marcus Hale felt the weight of every step as he retraced Caleb's last known movements. The boy's laughter, his whispered plans for the future, and the bright promise in his eyes haunted every corner Marcus passed. And yet, beneath the grief, there burned an undeniable instinct. The cold, razor-sharp edge of a detective who knew the patterns of predators and the whispers of lies. He started at Tremont Street, speaking to neighbors and local shopkeepers. "Did anyone see anything unusual last night?" His voice was calm, precise, but the tremor in his jaw betrayed the storm inside. One witness, a young woman named Lila, claimed to have seen a black sedan parked for hours near the basketball courts. The driver's face was hidden in shadows, and the license plate was obscured. "I thought it was just a delivery van," she said. "But now I know I should have called the police." Marcus nodded, committing the description to memory. The details were minimal, but in the world of criminal investigation, minimal clues often hid the most damning truths. Returning to Caleb's room, Marcus combed through everything: the scattered textbooks, the basketball trophies, the notes pinned to the corkboard. That torn piece of paper with the red symbol kept gnawing at him. He traced it with his fingers, the ink smudged from Caleb's struggle, and realized this wasn't random. It was a message, and only someone deeply familiar with Marcus's past could have known to send it. Adrian Locke. The name had haunted him for over a decade. A criminal mastermind who had eluded Boston's justice system, leaving a trail of bodies and broken lives. And now, Locke's shadow had touched his family. Marcus dove into his old case files, revisiting evidence he thought long buried. He recalled every encounter, every surveillance photograph, and every coded warning from those years ago. Then, in a file labeled Locke, Unsolved, he noticed something he had missed: a pattern in the killings. Each victim left with a token, a symbol, a message, a clue pointing to a twisted game of retribution. And the red ink? It was Locke's signature. The realization sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. This was never about Caleb. It was about me. The detective knew that to catch Locke, he needed to understand the mind of a manipulator, someone who thrived on chaos, fear, and control. Marcus began mapping out connections, revisiting the network of Locke's associates, some of whom had mysteriously vanished over the years. And as he traced leads late into the night, a haunting question surfaced. Could Caleb have stumbled onto Locke's plan by accident, or had he been deliberately chosen to send a message? Hours later, a breakthrough arrived from an unexpected source. Officer Kim Reynolds, a young detective with a reputation for intuition, found a small surveillance clip from a nearby convenience store. The footage showed Caleb arguing with someone in a hooded jacket, someone who moved with calculated precision. The camera angle didn't reveal the face, but the hand gestures, the subtle intimidation, and the way Caleb recoiled, it was deliberate, controlled, and terrifyingly familiar. Marcus's jaw tightened. This wasn't random street crime. This was a calculated psychological game, and Caleb was a pawn. As Marcus pieced together the puzzle, his phone buzzed. An anonymous text appeared: "Stop looking, or the next one dies." The digits were untraceable, the message unmistakable. Fear surged, but Marcus's resolve hardened. He realized the person responsible was close enough to know every move he made. And that meant the real danger wasn't just Caleb's death, it was what came next. Every officer in Boston PD knew Marcus Hale as a methodical, relentless detective. But no one, not even his closest colleagues, understood the personal war raging beneath his composed exterior. Tonight, he wasn't just hunting a criminal, he was confronting the very shadows of his past, shadows that had returned to threaten everything he loved. The streets of Boston suddenly felt smaller, tighter, suffocating. Every corner, Every alleyway, every familiar landmark could hold the next clue or the next ambush. Marcus paused, heart pounding, staring at the city skyline. One thought reverberated in his mind, louder than sirens or alarms. If Locke wanted to play a game, he had chosen the wrong opponent. I am not just a father, I am a detective, and I will finish what he started. The next clue promised to be more sinister than anything Marcus had faced. Was Locke truly back, or was there someone even closer manipulating the strings? And when Marcus finally came face to face with the mastermind, would he be able to separate the role of father from the role of detective? Or would that blurred line cost him everything he held dear? If this story has gripped you so far, comment, hunt for justice, share with everyone who needs to watch, and subscribe to Crime Chronicles TVc. Turn on the notification bell to follow the next chapter, where Marcus uncovers secrets so dark, even the people he trusted most could be suspects, and the stakes will rise higher than ever before. The city's night air carried a bitter chill as Detective Marcus Hale drove through the deserted streets of South Boston. The city that had once been familiar now seemed alien, each shadow a potential threat, each flickering streetlight a reminder that danger lurked unseen. Marcus's mind raced with possibilities, replaying every interaction, every clue, and every unexplained disappearance linked to Adrian Locke. The more he delved, the clearer it became. Locke's return wasn't a random act. It was personal, intimate, designed to wound Marcus in the deepest possible way. He arrived at a rundown apartment building on the edge of the city, one that had been flagged years ago in Locke's unsolved files. It smelled of damp concrete and neglect, but Marcus's instincts told him this was more than a derelict hideout. It was a trap. The faint scuff of footsteps echoed through the stairwell as he ascended, gun drawn, heart pounding. Memories of past confrontations with Locke's network flashed before him. The calculated violence, the subtle manipulations, the way Locke twisted situations to break his prey psychologically before physically. At the top floor, Marcus noticed a door slightly ajar, the faint glow of a television flickering inside. He pushed it open cautiously, revealing a scene that made him stop cold. There on the screen was footage of Caleb's last movements, captured from an unknown surveillance source. Every detail had been meticulously recorded: the route, the pauses, the people Caleb had interacted with. Marcus's jaw tightened. Locke wasn't just watching, he was orchestrating, learning, predicting, and exploiting vulnerabilities. The phone vibrated in Marcus's pocket. Another anonymous text: "You're too late." He saw everything. Anger and fear collided inside him. He realized Caleb had been caught in the crossfire of a mind far more dangerous than anyone Marcus had ever encountered. But the detective in him, the father who had vowed never to let harm come to his son, refused to yield. He began retracing the surveillance footage frame by frame. The details were subtle: a shadow lingering too long, a reflection in a storefront window, the faint outline of a vehicle that matched Lila's earlier description. Marcus pieced together a chilling pattern. Locke wasn't merely abducting victims, he was constructing a narrative, a macabre story where every victim, every clue, every threat was a page written to torment Marcus personally. Marcus returned to Boston PD headquarters, calling in his most trusted colleagues, Officer Kim Reynolds, Detective Lopez, and forensic analyst Tara Nguyen. Together, they began cross-referencing old Locke cases with Caleb's timeline, trying to detect a pattern. The evidence was clear yet terrifying. Each incident mirrored prior cases that Marcus had investigated over the past decade. Locke's methods had evolved, but his obsession with control and psychological dominance remained unchanged. Then came the breakthrough. Tara's forensic team discovered a faint fiber on Caleb's backpack, a synthetic material commonly used in security uniforms. It was a lead, subtle yet significant, pointing toward an insider or someone who had access to restricted areas. Marcus's pulse quickened. Could Locke have recruited someone within the system, someone close enough to manipulate the investigation from within? The thought gnawed at him relentlessly. As Marcus pondered the possibilities, a new call came in. Another abduction, this time near the outskirts of the city. The victim bore the same signature markings, the same methodical setup. Marcus realized with a sinking heart, Locke wasn't stopping until Marcus was broken, until he had proven his dominance over the man who had once evaded justice. And yet, amid the fear, determination ignited. Marcus swore to himself that he would not falter, that he would confront Locke directly, no matter the cost. But questions lingered like smoke in the night. Who could Marcus truly trust? Could he anticipate Locke's next move, or was he already one step behind? And if he faced Locke, would he be able to save Caleb, or was the trap already complete? If this story has gripped you so far, comment "Justice Must Prevail," share with everyone who needs to watch, and subscribe to Crime Chronicles TVc. Turn on the notification bell to follow the next chapter, where Marcus steps into Locke's world of shadows, facing secrets that will test his skills, his courage, and his heart like never before. The rain began to fall as Marcus Hale navigated the twisting alleys of South Boston, each droplet hitting the pavement like a ticking clock, counting down to the next tragedy. The city had grown quieter in these early morning hours, yet the tension felt suffocating, as though the shadows themselves were alive, whispering warnings. Marcus knew Locke was watching, calculating every step, his every decision, bending reality to unsettle Marcus's mind before he even arrived at the crime scene. Inside a dimly lit, abandoned warehouse on the waterfront, Marcus discovered evidence that made his stomach churn. Rusted chains, discarded clothing, and remnants of surveillance equipment littered the floor. But it wasn't the physical evidence that struck him, it was the meticulous planning. Locke had anticipated every move, creating a labyrinth of psychological traps. The chilling realization dawned that Caleb's path through Locke's nightmare had already been carefully scripted, each step designed to break not only him but Marcus as well. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Another cryptic message appeared. "Some games are meant to end in fire. Are you ready?" His hand tightened around the device. He knew Locke's obsession with theatricality. This wasn't just a crime, it was a performance, and Marcus was being forced into the spotlight. Every hour mattered, every choice critical. Yet with each message, Marcus felt an odd clarity emerging. The terror Locke instilled was meant to confuse, but instead, it fueled his resolve. Using every resource at his disposal, Marcus began reconstructing Caleb's last known route. Security footage, cell pings, witness statements, all combined to form a pattern, a web that led him to a remote industrial district. It was here that Locke had lured his son, here that he intended to strike again. Marcus's colleagues were briefed, ready to move in, but Marcus insisted on going alone. "I have to face this," he told them, voice steady but eyes burning with determination. As he entered the abandoned district, every footstep echoed ominously. Broken glass crunched under his boots. Shadows moved unnervingly, but Marcus focused on one thought: saving Caleb. A faint sound caught his attention, a muffled cry from inside a warehouse unit. Marcus signaled for silence and moved closer, senses sharpened to every detail. Inside, the scene was both horrifying and meticulous. Caleb was bound, unharmed but terrified, surrounded by symbols and notes that referenced previous cases Marcus had worked on, Locke's signature of control and manipulation. The psychological torment was as brutal as any physical threat. Marcus's blood ran cold as he realized the depth of Locke's fixation. This wasn't merely revenge, it was an attempt to prove dominance over Marcus himself. Locke's voice echoed from the shadows, calm, precise, and unnervingly casual. "You always wanted to catch me, Marcus, but did you ever wonder who would catch you?" The confrontation Marcus had feared for months had arrived. Every lesson, every case, every instinct would be tested in this final, decisive encounter. Could he save Caleb without falling into Locke's trap? Could he outthink a man who had spent years anticipating his every move? The warehouse seemed to hold its breath, the storm outside mirroring the storm within Marcus's mind. And just as he prepared to act, Locke disappeared into the darkness, leaving only a single clue, a small, blood-stained note with one chilling question: are you ready to lose everything? If this story has gripped you so far, comment "Save him," share with anyone who needs to watch, and subscribe to Crime Chronicles TVc. Turn on the notification bell to follow the next chapter, where Marcus must confront not only the mind of a master manipulator, but the limits of his own courage and resolve. Marcus Hale's heart pounded as he advanced into the labyrinthine depths of the abandoned warehouse district. Every shadow threatened to conceal a trap, every flicker of movement igniting 1,000 worst-case scenarios in his mind. Locke had orchestrated this entire sequence like a twisted symphony, each note designed to torment, confuse, and ultimately dominate. But Marcus knew one undeniable truth. He would not let fear dictate his actions. This was about Caleb, his son, and nothing else mattered. Inside the largest warehouse, the air was thick with a mix of dust, oil, and something more sinister, Locke's signature touch of psychological terror. Caleb sat in the center, bound, eyes wide but fiercely alert, as if trying to memorize every detail that could save him from the next nightmare. Around him were artifacts from Marcus's past cases, photographs, evidence tags, files, all carefully selected to remind Marcus of the years he had spent chasing justice, years Locke sought to dismantle in a single cruel tableau. Marcus. Locke's voice slithered from the shadows, smooth, almost conversational, yet laced with malice. I've studied you, every decision, every hesitation. I know you better than anyone. The figure emerged, tall, precise, eerily calm, wielding the confidence of a predator who believed the chase was his to command. Marcus's mind raced. He had anticipated this confrontation for months, prepared contingency plans for scenarios both logical and insane. But the sheer intimacy of Locke's understanding of him made it almost unbearable. It wasn't just Caleb at risk. It was the culmination of Marcus's life, his career, every principle he had ever fought to uphold. With a deep, measured breath, Marcus forced himself to focus. This ends tonight, Locke. Not just for Caleb, but for every life you've twisted, every family you've destroyed. You underestimated me. He advanced, carefully, calculating every movement, every word a weapon as much as his trained hands. Locke smirked, almost pleased, like a chess master seeing his opponent finally make a move. Do you think your love for him can outweigh my understanding of you? He gestured toward Caleb, as if the boy were a fragile pawn in this grand psychological game. Everything you've done has led us here. Will you lose him, Marcus, or will you play the final move? Suddenly, chaos erupted. Marcus lunged forward, his training blending with raw paternal instinct. A struggle ensued, tense and brutal, with each second stretching into an eternity. Locke's precision was deadly, but Marcus's determination was unmatched. Every twist, every feint, every instinct honed by years in law enforcement collided in a desperate, high-stakes dance. Finally, Marcus found an opening, a calculated risk, and overpowered Locke long enough to free Caleb. The relief that surged through him was palpable, a mixture of triumph and lingering terror. Locke's figure, subdued but not yet defeated, seemed to vanish into the shadows, a chilling reminder that this story was far from over. Marcus clutched Caleb tightly, whispering promises he had feared he might never fulfill. Even as they exited the warehouse, the tension lingered. Locke had been caught, but Marcus knew this was only one chapter in a darker saga. The detective had solved his son's case, but the psychological scars, the moral questions, and the unrelenting shadow of Locke's mind would haunt them both. The final question remains: can true justice ever erase the lingering impact of a manipulator's mind? How far would you go to protect your loved ones when danger hides in plain sight? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, comment "Justice for Caleb." Share this video with those who need to see it. Subscribe to Crime Chronicles TVc and turn on the notification bell for more gripping true crime stories where courage meets calculation. This is Crime Chronicles TVc, your daily dose of real crime stories. Stay tuned for more gripping tales of justice, betrayal, and survival that will keep you on the edge of your seat.